Inside your skull sits the most complex object in the known universe. It is a 3-pound mass of gray and white matter with the consistency of firm jelly. Despite making up only about 2% of your total body weight, it is a metabolic glutton, consuming roughly 20% of your body's total oxygen and energy. It is the architect of every thought you've ever had, the vault for every memory you hold, and the engine for every emotion that has ever surged through your chest. And yet, after centuries of study, we are still standing on the shore of a vast, uncharted ocean. This is the world of neurology, the medical and scientific frontier dedicated to the brain, the spinal cord, and the intricate web of the nervous system. Today, on the Mega Brain Show, we are pulling back the curtain on the most advanced machine ever built. We will explore the hidden history of how we discovered the mind, the devastating consequences of when the system breaks, and the cutting-edge technology that is currently attempting to merge the human brain with the digital world. Because the brain might be the most important part of your life. But before we begin, make sure to click that subscribe and like button and consider watching till the end. It is tremendously appreciated. Now, to understand the brain, we first have to understand the scale of its construction. Your brain contains roughly 86 billion neurons. These are specialized cells designed to transmit electrical and chemical signals at speeds up to 260 miles per hour. But the number of cells isn't the most impressive part, it's the connections. Each individual neuron can form thousands of connections with its neighbors. Altogether, your brain contains hundreds of trillions of synapses, the microscopic gaps where neurons talk to one another. To put that into perspective, there are more synaptic connections in a single human brain than there are stars in the entire Milky Way galaxy. You carry a universe's worth of complexity inside your head every single day. When you think a thought or move your hand, your brain initiates a process called an action potential. This is a tiny electrical impulse that travels down a nerve, fiber, or axon, triggering the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These chemicals leap across the synapse to the next neuron, passing the message along. This happens in milliseconds, millions of times every second, creating the seamless stream of consciousness we call life. But for most of human history, we had no idea this was happening. We were essentially ghosts living in a machine we didn't understand. For the majority of human civilization, the brain was the most ignored organ in the body. The ancient Egyptians, who were masters of anatomy, famously considered the brain to be useless packing material. During mummification, they would use a hook to pull the brain out through the nose and simply discard it. To them, the heart was the seat of the soul and the center of intelligence. It wasn't until the 5th century BC that the Greek physician Hippocrates dared to suggest otherwise. He argued that from the brain, and the brain alone, arise our pleasures, joys, laughter, and jests, as well as our sorrows, pains, and griefs. Later, the Roman physician Galen noticed that when gladiators suffered head injuries, their entire personalities or bodily functions changed. He concluded that the brain must be the commander of the body. But even then, for nearly 2,000 years, we lacked the tools to see what was actually happening inside the black box of the skull. The real turning point for neurology came in the 19th century through a combination of tragedy and artistic precision. In 1848, a railroad worker named Phineas Gage experienced one of the most famous accidents in medical history. An explosion sent a 3-foot iron rod straight through his skull, obliterating much of his left frontal lobe. Remarkably, Gage survived and remained conscious. However, the man who walked away from that accident was not the same man who arrived. The previously polite and hardworking Gage became fitful, irreverent, and vastly changed in personality. This was the smoking gun for neurology. It proved that specific regions of the brain are responsible for specific functions like behavior and social restraint. A few decades later, a Spanish scientist named Santiago Ramón y Cajal used a silver staining technique to peer through a microscope and draw the brain in incredible detail. He proved that the brain wasn't one giant tangled mess, but a network of individual, discrete cells. His beautiful hand-drawn maps of neurons earned him the Nobel Prize and established the neuron doctrine, which remains the foundation of everything we know about the brain today. So, how is this 3-pound machine organized? Modern neurology divides the brain into 3 primary regions. First, the cerebrum, the massive, wrinkled outer layer. This is the seat of higher-order thinking. It's where you process language, solve math problems, and imagine the future. Next is the cerebellum, the little brain at the back, which acts as a silent autopilot, coordinating your balance, and the complex motor skills required to do something as simple as tying your shoes. Finally, there's the brainstem, the ancient basement of the brain that manages the things you don't even think about: your heartbeat, your breathing, and your sleep cycles. But the most incredible feature of the brain isn't its structure, it's its fluidity. We used to think the adult brain was hardwired and unchangeable. We now know that isn't true. Through a process called neuroplasticity, your brain is constantly physically restructuring itself. Every time you learn a new language, practice a sport, or even watch a video like this, your neurons are forming new branches and strengthening old ones. Your brain is a living, breathing sculpture that is being carved by your experiences every second of your life. Because the brain is so complex, even a tiny error in its code can be catastrophic. Neurological disorders are some of the most challenging conditions in medicine because they strike at the very essence of who we are. Alzheimer's disease, for example, is a progressive assault on the brain's memory centers, fueled by the buildup of toxic proteins that choke neurons to death. Parkinson's disease occurs when a tiny cluster of cells in the midbrain stops producing dopamine, leading to the loss of motor control and the onset of tremors. Then there is epilepsy, a condition where the brain's electrical system experiences a sudden power surge, leading to seizures. These diseases are a sobering reminder of how delicate our reality truly is. When the signaling fails, the world we perceive begins to crumble. We are currently entering the golden age of neurology. With technologies like fMRI and PET scans, we can now watch a thought move across the brain in real time. We can see which parts of your brain light up when you're in love, when you're lying, or when you're listening to music. But the most sci-fi frontier is the brain-computer interface, or BCI. Companies like Neuralink and various university laboratories are developing ultra-thin electrodes that can be implanted directly into the brain. The goal is to allow paralyzed patients to move robotic limbs or type on a computer using nothing but their thoughts. We are reaching a point where we can bypass a broken spinal cord by wiring the brain directly to a machine. This isn't just about medicine. It's about the potential for human augmentation, the ability to expand our memory or our processing power through digital integration. Despite all this, one great mystery remains: the hard problem of consciousness. We can map every neuron, we can measure every electrical pulse, and we can identify every chemical, but we still don't know how those physical processes create the feeling of being you. How does a salty, wet organ produce the smell of a rose, the sting of a heartbreak, or the awareness of your own existence? Some scientists believe consciousness is just an emergent property of complex networks, like how 1,000 cars create a traffic jam, but no single car is the jam. Others suggest that we may need a new branch of physics to truly understand the mind. The truth is, the more we learn about the brain, the more we realize how much we have left to discover. Neurology is the ultimate human endeavor because it is the brain trying to understand itself. It is a 3-pound organ attempting to decode the very laws of its own existence. It is the study of what makes us human, what makes us unique, and what connects us to the rest of the biological world. As we continue to unlock the secrets of the 86 billion neurons inside our heads, we aren't just finding cures for diseases, we are finding the blueprints for our own souls. One day, we may finally solve the riddle of consciousness. But until then, take a moment to appreciate the universe you carry within you. What part of the brain fascinates you the most? Is it the mystery of dreams, the power of memory, or the future of neural implants? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the mind, please subscribe to the Mega Brain Show if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching till the end. We'll see you next time.